Alright, so let's talk about Wild Hearts. At first glance, it definitely looks like nothing more than a Monster Hunter clone, just with some added in building aspects. But is there more to it, or is Wild Hearts just another failed attempt at the Monster Hunter genre? Basically, is it going to be worth your time and money? I'll be giving you a quick overview of the story, the gameplay, then we'll come right back here for my final thoughts on who I think should be picking this game up. Let's get into it. The story begins with your custom character traveling to a new land in search of glory, challenges, and wanderlust. Playing as a hunter, you meet a mysterious musician who gives you advice and tales about the land you're about to enter. You are then ambushed by a giant beast. They call these the Kemonos. These are monsters who have been taken over by primal nature energy and are causing havoc on the land. You put up a fight, but are defeated. With the help of the mysterious stranger, you inherit the ability to conjure Katakuri, an ancient technology that allows you to build many different tools and structures at will. Using this newfound power, you take it upon yourself to master the lay of the land and aid the locals in their survival against the ever-growing threats of these Kemono. The gameplay primarily consists of hunting, exploring, and upgrading your equipment. Let's go over all of these briefly. Starting with hunting, you got health, stamina, and can choose between 8 different weapon types to master and swap out at will. Each weapon has their own movesets to master and gimmicks to learn. For example, the bow and arrow focuses on switching between fast and strong stances, while the maul revolves around certain combo timings to increase the length of the maul itself to deal more damage. Alongside your weapons, you can conjure Karakuri tools. These use up thread, which you find all over the map and from hitting the Kemonos themselves. These aid in traversal and fighting abilities. For example, you can summon a spring to propel yourself forward, crates for higher jumping, and fire torches to set your weapons ablaze. Monsters themselves range from medium-sized creatures to giant building-sized ones. They have many attack patterns and weaknesses to different elements. Now for exploring. There will be a village you'll enter frequently, but primarily you'll spend your time on these different maps, which are islands consisting of different biomes. The maps are large and have lots of resources to gather and secrets to find. A big part of exploring is finding and collecting Tsukemo. This is essentially your AI fighting partner. They can attack, defend, heal you, and distract monsters for you. When finding even more Tsukemo buddies on the map, you can permanently increase their stats and, even more importantly, increase your thread limit for building different structures. Whenever you summon a tool used in fighting, it stays there unless you dismantle it or a monster destroys it. So that means even if you leave and come back to the map later on, you're permanently leaving your mark on the island. Other than Katakuri tools, you can summon Katakuri dragons, which are much more meaningful structures with lots of different effects. Just to name a couple, you can build tents for fast traveling, drying racks to prepare food, towers for locating Kemono, and flying vines, which are used to create zip lines. And finally, I want to summarize the progression / upgrading. As you defeat Kemono, you gain orbs. You can use these to unlock new structures and upgrade existing ones. More weapons and armors can be forged at the blacksmith, with resources gathered from the land and Kemonos hunted. As you further a weapon along their tree, you're not just upgrading, but rather also bringing in past skills to inherit into their new forms. This is a way to customize and tailor your weapon to your own playstyle. The armors that you make all have different looks, and they can also be upgraded to either a human or Kemono path, meaning certain skills can only be used if your affinity reaches either the human or Kemono path. And guys, that's pretty much Wild Hearts in a nutshell. There's a ton of mechanics I didn't get into, otherwise this video would be too long, such as like talisman equipment and dragon pit upgrading, but I think I gave you a gist of how the game works. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, my final thoughts on if you should play this game. Alright, so the big question here obviously is this just a Monster Hunter clone? I want to let you guys know how long I've been playing the game so you can get an idea. I would say around 12 or so hours. And yes, I will be the first to admit, at first glance, even seeing the trailers and even some of the gameplay reveals, it looked just like Monster Hunter. I was like writing this off, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna definitely give it a chance. I would say once you start getting into it, it becomes more and more, you know, has more of an identity just besides being a Monster Hunter game. Now, I really love Monster Hunter. You know, I played Generations on the 3DS, World, Rise, hundreds of hours in those games, and I have also tried other Monster Hunter clones. I will admit, Wild Heart, it will take a bit to sort of, you know, make it stand out. But I think out of every single one I've played, this is the best alternative I've seen. Now, because I've been streaming the game, I'm getting lots of people who haven't heard about the game or really wanted to know, hey, is this game worth playing? Is this just a Monster Hunter clone? Now, the analogy I would give them, because I didn't want to sit there every single time to, you know, hundreds of people who ask about it. I don't want to go blah, 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 you know, this is why, and essentially give the whole review. I would give the analogy. Pretend that Monster Hunter is like League of Legends, and pretend that Wild Hearts is a Dota. They are both MOBAs, they both do the same thing, and basically they're the same game, but they have their own identity and they all work towards the same sort of goal. They're both good games. Now, obviously, Monster Hunter is a much more polished game, you know, lots of legacy, tons and tons of games, but I have to hopefully wonder if the people who worked on Wild Hearts are just fans of Monster Hunter, because there really is a lot of mechanics that is just taken straight out from there, just done a little bit differently. But honestly, Wild Hearts does have a good start, and I hope they keep it up. If you guys didn't know, I didn't mention at the beginning, but you know, Wild Hearts is created by a lot of the people who made like the, you know, the Warriors type of game. So even though they might not work on Monster Hunter games themselves, they do work on a lot of other games which are highly acclaimed. And just so you know, all the footage you're seeing is taken from my PS5 footage versus the PC one, which came out. I know people who playing on the PC Steam version, oh my god, it's terrible frame drops. Even if they're running like a 3090 card, it's terrible, runs like crap. When the game first came out, it was mostly negative reviews on Steam, and I was definitely ready to pick it up on Steam until I saw that, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna wait a couple days, then I'm gonna buy the PS5 version. How does it run? How does the PS5 version run? Really, really well. Tiny frame drops here and there, but that's only when that screen is just filled with stuff. You know, it's like, it's to be expected. But I heard that, you know, as of recording this, there's going to be patches upcoming soon, which, you know, make it good. But honestly, this is really a bad start. It's kind of unacceptable that they launch it at this state. You know, with PC launching first a couple of days before the more stable console versions. Like, how do they even get to that point? So yeah, I will fault them a lot on that. It's really unexcusable. It sucks that, you know, a game that I think has potential to be a mainstay in this genre, you know, it being as good as it was and surprised me. It sucks that it launched with such a bad performance that it's hindering the score. And honestly, when you go look at the Steam page, you know, mostly negative. I think right now it's mixed. I looked just before I started the recording here. It's now mixed with like 3,000 plus reviews, but still seeing mixed, it's gonna give a lot of people some pretty bad first impressions, and you know, that's too bad. So more into this game, right? So yeah, it feels very shallow as soon as you start the game, meaning the weapons are simple. There's only 8 of them. Monster Hunter has 14, and you only get 4 at the start, and then you have to play the game a lot more hours before you can unlock the other 4 that you can get. I don't know why they did that, maybe just like a progression thingy, but basically it's simple, but it you know, different weapons unlock new abilities via the weapon tree. It's really important that you don't one-to-one sort of, you know, compared to Monster Hunter in every aspect. For example, Monster Hunter, you unlock a great sword, you have every sort of attack at your disposal already. Here in Wild Hearts, as you go down the weapon tree, you're customizing and you're inheriting the weapon. So everything starts at the base, and then you go down a tree, and as you go down each tree, you pick up skills along the way, like, oh, this one is more attack, this is more crit rates. And then once you go down different paths, you're taking those skills with you. So you're building and building the weapon as you go. And there's not just like little basic stats like that, but there's ones that give your weapon super armor, for example. So it really changes up the playstyle of these weapons. Not only the skill trees, but you got your armor skills and your talismans which you equip. So there's a ton of different sorts of ways to build up your character. And not just that, but I think, you know, the more I play this, it's 50-50. You have to master weapons and you have to master the Katakuri themselves, because these are a huge, gigantic part of combat. When I first started playing, I was relying on weapons because Monster Hunter, you know? But the more I learn what each of the different Katakuris can do, like, oh, this one gives me iframes. I can use this one to really fly up and dodge. I can combine these together to create a structure which stops monsters. If you know, the more you play, the more you find out, like, oh wow, this creates a flash bomb, etc. I feel like another thing they could have done better here is they just don't tell you a lot. I don't know if this was by just the design themselves, but for example, you don't know where you can build a lot. You don't know a lot of the weapons combos and interactions. They do give you a slight tutorial if you go out of your way to like find the training thing and learn that, but it's pretty basic, and that's what gave me a first impression, like, oh, is this everything? But honestly, the more I played, the more different types of combos and interactions I found. And you know, if you just go online and you find a video for your weapon that you want to learn, I'm sure someone has a lot of knowledge and it could really express the weapons themselves. Because like I said, it feels shallow, but once you learn the ins and outs plus the Karakuri interactions, it's insane. It really is insane. One thing I really love about this game, it's a big change from Monster Hunter, is the constant upgrades, right? So you're not just like in Monster Hunter, what are you doing? You're fighting a monster and you're unlocking you're just upgrading a weapon, which increases damage, maybe even elements, some stuff like that. When you get late game Monster Hunter, that's when you get armor skills and talismans and basically special skills, right? But in here, you're constantly unlocking things, always getting new structures, using your skills to go down a Katakuri skill tree, finding new ways to use them. It's really exciting to see all of these different skills unlock. And more, I think more of an impact is the permanent upgrade stuff that you find on these maps. Everything you build stays, and it was very, you know, pleasantly surprising to see, like, my spring that I left here 5 hours ago is helping me in this new fight of this monster on the same map. You know, you're creating boxes to help you jump around, vines to make zip lines, gigantic fans to help you go around. You're unlocking new fast travel. So it really does feel like over time, you're mastering these lands, you're creating traps, you're learning the monsters' patterns themselves, where they're moving, and just basically figuring out the game loop. It's a lot of traversal shortcuts, etc. It's like the best thing, like one of the best things about it, I think, is absolutely the map design, because it's filled to the brim with things. You know, you're always grabbing things, collecting things. The monsters themselves, I would feel like it's a little bit of a step down in terms of the design and sort of AI attacks from Monster Hunter. Like those are legacy monsters that, you know, easily sort of you know, can tell what they do. It looks cool. These monsters look good, right? But I feel like it just doesn't have that sort of that pacing, that cadence that Monster Hunters have. It's more like a smooth dance, while Wild Hearts is like quick arcadey kills and stuff like that. So yeah, you have a nice connection to your world. You spend so much time on these maps in Monster Hunter, I feel like, because in Monster Hunter you basically go do a quest and then you travel back to town, you do all your stuff, you eat, you get a new mission, and then you go back. Here you can do that to an extent, but you can just stay on these maps all day every day and get almost everything done there. I did play a little bit of multiplayer and it was fine. It was like, it's drop in and out. I did a couple of assist ones. Now it's cool because, you know, whether you're playing on your world or your friend's world, you're seeing the different sorts of buildings that they made there, so you can see their setup and play that way. So I guess to sum up, You know, if you're really on the fence about picking this game up, Monster Hunter is very polished. Legacy games, you know, it's very, very focused and more intimate on knowing your weapons, knowing the monsters and the environment around you. I would say Monster Hunter is very easy to get into these days, very user friendly. Play that if you haven't played any sort of Monster Hunter game before. Start with Monster Hunter World and then play a little bit more of Rise and maybe jump into Wild Hearts. Wild Hearts, on the other hand, I just mentioned it. It feels like a really, really heavy arcade version. Very, very fast paced. Lots and lots of permanent upgrades. You're going to see progression all over the place. You're always collecting new things, unlocking new skills, upgrading the map, etc. I really hope that this game does not get buried under the terrible release date that it did. It sucks, and you know, unfortunately, you can't say they didn't see it coming or they deserved it. There are so many people complaining about the performance, and if they do patch it up, I hope this game, hopefully, maybe in the upcoming months, becomes a mostly positive into a very positive, because I think, once again, this is probably the best Monster Hunter alternative that I've seen. So play this one if you love action RPGs that revolve around mastery of weapons and monsters. You're going to be saying that, you know, you're going to be seeing the same maps, the same missions all over again. It does get repetitive unless you love the game loop. And what makes Monster Hunter fun is the combat, the gameplay. It doesn't matter if you're seeing the same monster and stuff. You're experimenting with new weapons. You're going around the map and trying out new things. It's just slow progression with the same stuff, and you know, it does get harder as it goes on. But yeah, I guess because there isn't a new Monster Hunter on the horizon just yet, you can still play a little bit of World, a little bit of Rise, and then play this until the new Monster Hunter comes out. The story itself, I didn't even mention it, but I think it's basic, but it does the job. I guess the price is pretty high, definitely. But once again, I think this type of game, it's worth the money. Lots of replayability, and if you're going to be spending dozens of hours like me on it, it's worth the money. I have zero buyer's remorse from this stuff. So if you guys enjoyed, like, subscribe. If you want to see my gameplay, I'm uploading it on my MabiVsGames 2 channel, which is my Let's Play channel, and come by Twitch, where I'm going to be streaming a couple hours of this every single day before we go on to the other games, etc. So let me know what you guys think of freaking Wild Hearts down below. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.